Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, there's an echo because I got it playing on mine, so let me make sure I mute that. Let's see here. We got a few people in here already. Very cool, very cool. Are you guys getting the notification? Or did you guys just get on because it was 3 o'clock? Just wondering. Oh, my thing disconnected. Oh, great. Of course, I'm going to have tech issues now. There we go. All right. So you did get it this time. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's the first time I went live today. I don't know. It's so weird. I'll have to ask Hannah if she got it or not. So I'm not doing anything too crazy today. So I know some people are still kind of jumping in right now as I'm looking at the chat on my other screen. So I'll just kind of talk a little bit. Did everybody enjoy their Easter? I know I talked to a couple of you guys already in the Zoom. I know this wasn't like a normal Easter, so probably couldn't do what we've done in the past, to say the least. Let's see here. Yeah, it really did not feel like Easter at all. It did not whatsoever. I still went down to my wife's parents' house, and then we had like a ham down there, but it didn't feel like a holiday. Far from it. Ay, ay, ay. Well, if you guys are just jumping in and you didn't read the title, this is the same packet we've been doing all last week. So this is all that Unit 10 review. I am doing question number 11 in the review packet, because that's pretty much the only one we have not done. Because number 13, I'm not even going to bother with it. Yeah, it was pretty warm yesterday. You guys watched it on TV. I know a lot of people, like my wife's family, they drove their cars up to the church parking lot, and they broadcasted the Easter Mass on the radio. So everybody that normally went to the church in Dunkirk all sat in the parking lot, and they all just listened to it together. So yeah, I bet that's got to be really weird. But Facebook Live. Yeah, Mr. Van Det said he did his on Facebook Live. I don't know if you're at the same church as him, Daisy, but that's what he told me at least. Well, I'm glad you made it, Tabitha. All right, well, I'm going to do just these two. It's just going to be 11A, 11B. They're the same types of questions. We've kind of done similar questions to this in the past. It's just we haven't done them with fractions. I've only done them with quadratics with you guys. So I'm going to show you guys how to do these with fractions. And I have a good feeling that you guys are going to feel all right with it. It's not going to be anything too crazy. Okay? You have a question already? I haven't even started. Go ahead, Sierra. Because while you're asking it, I'm gonna pull up our ¿Cómo se dice? Open economy. I'll have to talk about it tomorrow. Never mind. So, all right. So Javon's saying that he's having issues, but I don't know. Oh, beautiful. We're getting bots in here again. Beautiful. ban. If you're doing LCD or only two fractions, do you cross out the bottom or leave it? If it's only two fractions, if there's an equal sign in between them, you can cross multiply, Sierra, but you can do LCD if you want to, and you'll still get the same answer. That's up to you. All right. Well, I'm going to start doing number 11. Javon, if you're still having trouble, I mean, my best suggestion would just be to come back and watch the video itself. I don't know why it's giving you issues today. So I'm going to zoom in on 11A because today, being that it's only two questions, this should not take us too long. If there's an equal sign, Sierra, then you have to make it disappear. If there's no equal sign, then it stays. All right, so as far as this question goes, we have 5x plus 1 over x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 3. What we have to do is find the solution set. So there's a possibility of being more than one answer to this problem, and there's a possibility of answers that don't exist. We have to look for both when we're looking at inequalities. So I'm going to write two things down. I'm going to put down off to the side does work. And then I'm going to put off to the side doesn't work. Because there's two different possibilities or two different types of possibilities of solutions that work here. Now, you don't have to write does work and doesn't work every single time. I'm just writing it down for notes purposes so you can see what's going on. How you doing, Shannon? Just getting started. This is number 11 on that review packet that we've been doing. So, for the ones that do work, the ones that we're trying to look that does work, which are those x's, what we have to do is we have to solve the problem. So just like we did last week when we have fractions, we can solve it. We're just like what I was saying with Sierra, you can't solve it unless it's an equation. So because it's an inequality, what we're going to do is we're going to change it so it's an equation so we can solve it. So I'm just going to rewrite that first fraction, but I'm going to change it to an equal sign. Because you can't solve anything unless it's equals. After you do that, now this is what Sierra was saying, and I'm not quite sure what Sierra was asking based on not seeing the problem. But a problem like this, if you have a fraction equal to a number, we can just take that number and put it over 1. And we did this last week, and now we can just cross multiply. And if we cross multiply this, we'll be able to solve it and find our solution. So you just have to make sure that you're distributing. So I'm just going to write it out. This is really just saying 5x plus 1 times 1, which is just 5x plus 1. And then we have to make sure the other side is 3 times x plus 3. So we'll have to distribute that 3 into the parentheses. So that's all I'm going to do right here. So that's going to be 3x plus 9. On the left side, it's still going to be 5x plus 1. And all we're doing is we're solving it. So we have to get all the x's on the same side and get x all alone. Yeah, that's fine, Sierra. Do that. And then hopefully I can answer your question. So now that we're going to solve this, I can subtract the 3x over to the left. I can subtract the 1 over to the right. And it looks like I'm going to have 2x is equal to 8. So that means x would have to equal 4. That answer works for this problem. If you plug in the number 4, that means you will get a correct solution. I'm not asking you to check it right now, but I'm saying if you did plug 4 in for x, everything will work out fine, no issues. Okay? The fact that this is a fraction, though, there's also numbers that don't work in this fraction. And some of you guys may already remember this from last week, but we said that we just have to look at the denominator and set the denominator equal to 0. Because if we look at just this denominator and we set it equal to 0, you guys will find the x value that cannot work in this case, because if you get x all alone and you subtract the 3 over to the other side, you're going to find out that x cannot equal negative 3. Because if it's equal to negative 3, then you're going to get 0 on the bottom of the fraction, and we said that's undefined. So in this problem, we're looking for our solution set. We found two numbers that are in the solution set. One solution that does work and one solution that doesn't work. So in the past, we made it easier to represent answers for inequalities by showing a number line graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a number line. I'm going to put the two answers that are on here. The first answer was that negative 3. And that answer doesn't work. So when we're doing circles, open circles or closed circles, this is going to be an open circle. And because it doesn't work, I'm going to put up here, always an open circle. So it's always got to be open because it's no solution is there. The second number is that 4. And in order to determine if that one's open or closed, you have to go back to the original problem. So you have to check the original inequality. And since that inequality has the equal sign underneath, that means it is a closed dot. If that equal sign was not there, then that dot would also be open. So you just have to go back and check. So for this one, I'm going to put down check original inequality. So you have to check the original inequality to see if it's open or closed. So now this may look familiar to you guys, because now you have to figure out if the lines are going in or out. So in order to determine if the lines are going in or out, we did something called a test point. We wrote down TP. So I'm just going to put down TP down here. And the easiest number that we can test that falls between negative 3 and 4 is 0. So I'm just going to take the number 0 and I'm going to plug it into the original problem and see if it's true or if it's false. So you don't have to show me the work. You can type it right into your calculator. So it is a fraction. So alpha y equals fraction 5 times x, but in this case, since we're saying it's 0, I'm just substituting 0 in, plus 1 all over 0 plus 3. And if we solve that out, it comes out to be 0.3 repeating, which I hope you guys know that's 1/3. Now, I just have to check, is 1/3 true for this problem? Well, if you look at the original problem, we plugged it in on the left side. Is 1/3 greater than or equal to 3? Well, no, it's not. So we were told that if it does not check, then the lines go out. So now we can state all the solutions by putting it in math notation. Since all the numbers are smaller than negative 3, I can put down x is less than negative 3. And I can't put the equal sign there because we said that negative 3 was an open circle. Now I'm going to go over to the other side. Since we know all the numbers are going to be larger than 4, it's going off to the right, I can say x is greater than 4. And I can put in the equal sign because this is a closed dot. So in this case, we can have x is less than negative 3 or x is greater than or equal to 4. And that is the final answer to this problem. There's a lot of steps to this. This is why I'm only doing these 2 questions today. I'm not going to mix anything up. We'll do a little bit more practice with it tomorrow. I'm probably just going to make them up and put them on a blank page. So we have to look for 2 things. We have to look for what does work and what doesn't work. We put it on a number line, and then we just have to do a test point, and that's it. I make it sound so easy, but for the first time, for you guys, for the first time seeing it, it could be a little, you could struggle a little bit with it, which makes sense. So I'm going to do one more with you guys. We'll call it for today. The only homework is to finish the lab. So if you still have questions on the lab, keep emailing me if you got questions. I still got the Zoom tomorrow at 1 if you guys want to show up and ask questions then. This is not on the lab, so you guys don't have to worry about these questions on the lab. All right, so I'm going over to part B now. So part B says x squared plus 5x minus 50 over x plus 3 is less than or equal to 0. So once again, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to check both. We're going to check for the ones that do work, and we're going to check for the ones that don't work. So again, you don't have to write it down this way, but I figured it's a good way to separate the two different types of answers you can get. I always like doing the doesn't work side first. I know I didn't do it like that on part A, but I always think that's the easier one because the ones that don't work is just the bottom set equal to 0. So I'm just going to take the x plus 3, set it equal to 0, and once again, x is not going to be able to be negative 3. Because if you make it that negative 3, your fraction becomes undefined. So that doesn't work. Now I'm going to come over to the other side. Now I'm going to look for the ones that do work. You can only solve these type of problems if you change it to an equation. So again, I have a fraction is equal to a number. Just like the first one over on the left side, I took that 3 and I put it over 1. We got to do the same thing here. We got to take our 0 and put it over 1. And then I'm just going to cross multiply. So if I cross multiply, I can do this part and this part. So if I look at the green portion that I just did, that's all just going to stay exactly the same because we're multiplying it by 1. And as far as the other side goes, it's x plus 3 times 0, and anything times 0 is just 0. So now all we got to do here is factor it. So if you factor it, you're going to have two bubbles. We have x and x. And it looks like in this case, the only thing we can multiply to get to 50 that would give us 5 is going to be 10 and 5. The 10 is going to be positive. 5 is going to be negative. And now we can t-chart it. So I'm going to have, I don't know why I'm writing t-chart underneath it. I'm going to have x is equal to negative 10 and x is equal to 5. So there's 3 solutions here. In math, we call them critical values. So if you hear me say the term critical values at all, that's just saying, hey, we're going to take all the answers that did work and didn't work and put it on a number line. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Just like we did in the last one. It's just this time we're going to have 3 dots on it. Come on, draw me my line. So one answer that we had on here was, actually I'm going to start off with the smallest one, and I guess in this case it's going to be negative 10. We also got an answer of negative 3, and we also got an answer of positive 5. So in this particular problem, we have to check to see what is open and closed. Now, like I said before, anytime you guys are doing the ones that don't work, that is always going to be an open circle because that's what makes the bottom undefined. So that negative 3 over here has to be an open circle. So I'm going to put an open circle above my negative 3. As far as the ones that do work, you have to go back and check that original sign. That original sign has the equal sign underneath it, so it does work. So I'm just going to close both of those ones. Now we're back to doing test points. It's just in this particular problem, because we have 3 dots, we're going to have to do 2 sets of test points. I got to do one in between the -10 and -3, and then I got to do one between the -3 and 5. So like I said before, always start with the easiest test point, and the easiest test point is going to be 0. So I'm just going to put underneath this -3 and 5, my test point is equal to 0. And let's check 0, because 0 is always going to be the easiest one to check. So I'm going to go into my calculator. I'm going back to that original fraction up here, except I'm going to put in alpha y equals fraction. I have 0 squared plus 5 times 0 minus 50 all over 0 plus 3. So I got the answer to be -16. And this really is going to be -16 2/3, which if you guys look at the original, we're checking to see if it was less than or equal to 0. That checked. If it checks, that means that your lines go in. So the dots are going to be connected only for those 2 points, because we only did the test point right there. Okay. Now here's the cool thing about these dots. I told you have to do 2 test points. You really don't have to, because your lines are always going to alternate from each other. So because the lines went in here, that means that the lines cannot go out. So that means we can't have an answer here, and we can't have an answer here because the outs didn't work. So the line is always going to be every other as you're moving your way through. So the only other spot that it can still work are the numbers that are smaller than this -10 over here, because the line alternates. So the line on this, oops, I froze. The line over here is good. This does not work because it's in between. Then I came over here, it does work. Then I go to the next one, it doesn't work. If I had another dot over here, then I can make another line and say it does work. It will always switch on and off. So really, you're still only doing 1 test point. That could be kind of confusing, so we'll definitely do a couple more of those tomorrow to see how you guys feel with them. As far as us writing down the final answer now, we just have to put it in math notation. So the first one says that all of our answers have to be smaller than -10. So I'm going to put down x is less than -10. But because it was a closed dot, I have to make sure that I have an equal sign there. Now I'm going to go over to the next part. The next part shows that I have from -3 all the way up to 5. So I'm going to put down -3, x, 5. The symbols were always less than when you guys write them together. And then the -3 is open and the 5 was closed. So I'm going to put the line underneath the 5. And I'm just going to write the word or in between, because it's 2 different possible answers. It could be either less than or equal to -10, or it could be between -3 and 5. Oops. And this right here would be the final solution to this inequality. So I'm going to look at today as more of like an intro. So tomorrow we'll do a couple more of them. We'll see how you guys feel. So again, as far as the lab tonight goes, there's no homework on this with this. The homework is everything else that we did in this review packet. So don't be afraid to contact me if you guys still have questions on it. I am around. I have nowhere to go. As far as gaming today goes, I didn't want to like say anything. I'll see if I can get on. I'll just leave it at that. The dog has been very, very energetic as of late. So I had to go put him in the cage because my wife wasn't home, and he's been barking for the last 15 minutes. So I'm going to go check on him to make sure he is okay. And yeah, I don't know if you guys have any other questions for me. I know Cuomo went out and had a conversation about what's going on. I didn't have an opportunity to listen to it because my dad called me. So I'm going to probably watch the video, and I suggest you guys watch the video as well. I mean, you could just Google Governor Cuomo and it will probably pop up, and you guys will learn a little bit more of what's going on for New York State. I'm assuming this one talked about education a little bit more and how it's going to affect us. So if you get an opportunity, go and watch that video. Otherwise, I'll talk a little bit about it tomorrow because I'm going to probably watch it at some time today. Okay. And yeah, Shannon, this is a little confusing because it is new, but I'll go back and I'll do some more practice to make sure you guys got it down. Okay. So other than that, tune in later, and I hope you guys have a good Monday evening. I hope you guys all had an awesome Easter weekend, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Have a good one.